A few years ago in War Thunder one could see the remains of destroyed vehicles used as decorations. On the map Rhine Crossing near Cologne Cathedral, a real-world building, developers placed a destroyed Panther tank. This was a reference to an actual episode of World War II. To cover sappers who were mining bridges in Cologne at dawn on March 6, a small German detachment crossed to the west bank of the Rhine via a bridge. In addition to infantry, the detachment included 4 Panther IV tanks and 2 Panthers. The bridges were blown up before the enemy arrived and the cover group managed to retreat, but the crew of one Panther stayed on the western bank. Panther engaged in battle with Allied 3rd Armored Division. It managed to destroy 2 Shermans but did not survive a confrontation with the American heavy tank the Pershing. American Sergeant Jim Bates captured the destruction of the Cologne Panther on camera. By 1944, Germany had lost access to non-ferrous metal deposits and its industry struggled to secure supplies. This affected the quality of the King Tiger's armor, which was entering mass production at the time. Despite its thick frontal plates, impacts from shells caused spalling and cracking of the armor even when the plates were not penetrated. For a long time, the game included mechanics that accounted for this weakness under the name of armor degradation coefficient, which reduced the King Tiger's armor effectiveness. This mechanic existed until the release of Update 1.71 New Era, when it was removed. Hanoi Hana. In a video where I discussed map lore, I mentioned the speaker on the Vietnamese map whose voice can be heard from street loudspeakers mounted on poles.
You can get killed here. Get out while you are still alive, before it is too late.
In older versions of War Thunder, in addition to the usual speaker, there was a slight chance of hearing a recording of the legendary Vietnamese broadcaster Hanoi Hana.
It seems to me that most of you are poorly informed about the going of the war, to say nothing about a correct explanation of your presence over here. Nothing is more confused than to be ordered into a war to die or to be maimed for life without the faintest idea of what's going on.
Tri Thien Ngo, also known as Hanoi Hana, was a Vietnamese broadcaster who delivered demoralizing propaganda to American troops during the Vietnam War. During the war, she worked for Radio Hanoi, operated by the North Vietnamese Army to demoralize American troops. She aired 3 times a day, reading lists of killed and captured soldiers and making statements about the injustice and dishonor of military actions. The station also played popular anti-war songs, attempting to evoke homesickness among Americans. Her figure significantly influenced American culture, becoming one of the symbols of the Vietnam War. Hanoi Hana's speeches can be heard not only on War Thunder locations but also in other games like Battlefield Vietnam, Battlefield Bad Company 2 Vietnam, and Rising Storm 2 Vietnam.
GI, your government has betrayed you. You will not return for you.
Look around you, GI. You and your comrades suffer here, while your countrymen go on with their lives. They have forgotten about you. They do not care what is happening over here. They are busy enjoying themselves.
Your rich leaders grow richer while you die in the swamp, GI. They will give you a medal, GI, but only after you are dead.
It's no secret that War Thunder includes amphibious vehicles. Most players believe this is an entirely useless feature, and they are generally right. However, there is one exception to the rule. On the Alaska map in the upper right corner, you can cross the river and climb to a higher bank. From this elevation, you can control access to Point C and even enemies' spawn area. Perhaps I shouldn't have mentioned this, as it is like increased the number of players attempting to climb there, and as well as those checking this position on the way to Point C. Additionally, reaching this spot isn't easy. First, you must participate in the battle for control of the main detour route on the map. Then, you need to cross the river quickly before the respawned enemies, whom you may have killed early on the detour route, get to you. In any case, avoid playing on this map for about a month after this video is released. In one update, the War Thunder introduced a unique voiceover for the Argentine crew of the Germans' branch TAM-2IP light tank. If you activate the rangefinder while targeting anti-aircraft guns, the Spanish-speaking crew makes sounds reminiscent of Gachimuchi. Similarly, note the sound produced by the Hungarian crew.
Большая часть стратегических точек захвачена нами.
On the Stalingrad map, near the train station, there is a space beneath the plates that seem perfect for the Object 775. By lowering the transition, you can easily drive inside and rack up kills. Unfortunately, in practice, this tactic can't be used, as tanks with a battle rating of 9.3 don't appear on this map. On the Gold Quarry map, there is an interesting spot seemingly designed for the Weasel. It's located at point C under the giant bucket wheel excavator. From this position, you can either destroy unsuspecting opponents or prevent the capture of the point. Weapon decorations in War Thunder are relatively rare and not available to all players. However, some vehicle models feature default decorations in the form of weapons. For instance, the Israeli Tyrant 6 has an Israeli Uzi next to the commander's hatch, while the Soviet ZUT-37 has a PPS submachine gun visible in the turret. If you activate hover mode on the Ka-29 and carefully submerge in water, you can explore the ocean's depth and even fire guided missiles at them. Until recent updates in the test flight mode for Yak-38, Yak-38M, and the Ka-29 deck helicopter, players spawned on the Soviet aircraft-carrying cruiser Baku, recreated by the developers for historical accuracy. Yak-38 aircraft were indeed part of the cruiser's air group, along with Ka-27 helicopters, an earlier version of the Ka-29. In 1991, deck tests of the Yak-141 aircraft were also conducted on the cruiser, making its inclusion in the War Thunder canonically accurate. Additionally, the ship has an interesting history. Baku was launched in 1982 at the Nikolaev Black Sea shipbuilding plant. On April 27, 1988, it was commissioned into active service, and by late May, preparations began for its first combat deployment. During its service in the Mediterranean, the cruiser mentioned the American nuclear-powered multi-purpose aircraft carrier USS Dwight D. Eisenhower. On October 4, 1990, the cruiser was renamed Admiral of the Fleet of the Soviet Union, Gorshkov. In 1994, negotiations began to sell the ship to India. In July 1999, Gorshkov was towed to Severodvinsk for modernization under an Indian Navy contract. The aircraft-carrying cruiser was rebuilt into a full-fledged aircraft carrier and renamed INC Vikramaditya. In November 2013, a ceremonial transfer of the carrier to the Indian Navy took place in Severodvinsk.